Before we begin, a note. This episode contains child abuse and violence. If that's not something you can be with today, it's okay to sit this one out and come back another time. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of the Human Experience, a limited series podcast. My name is Crystal Kayeeb Zeb. I am a transformation coach, a shaman, and recently I became an author when I wrote The Human Experience. I help people around the world shift their limited beliefs and bring their souls back home. This podcast takes you inside the stories of the book, where we witness the change, healing, and transformation of my clients. Together, we'll learn the lessons and wisdoms and apply them to our own lives and healing journey. So I want to start off with a question, and I want to ask you, have you ever reached a point with family where staying felt like it was going to start to cost you more than leaving ever could? And even when you tried to make things work, but the relationship seemed to take more from you until it forced you to really make the decision to leave, to really protect yourself and to go no contact. Well, research on estrangement says the same thing over and over. Going no contact is almost never impulsive. It's actually one of the last resorts and one of the last options. In fact, Cornell ran the first national survey ever done on this and found that 27% of American adults have already cut off contact with a family member. That's about 67 million people. And if you've done this, I want you to know that you're actually nowhere near alone. Today's story is actually the most extreme version of that same reality and what it actually took to find a home on the other side of it. So, I want to introduce all of you to my client, Maikhou. When I met Maikhou, she was a young mother in her late 40s. And I remember when I saw her face come on my Zoom, she was so tired, stressed, and burnt out. And she shared how she's been trying to remove the curse that her father put on her years ago because her children were now experiencing it too. She was told that the only way to remove this curse was to become a shaman. And that was something she was not prepared for and she did not want to do. Hey y'all, this is editing Crystal. This scene got refilmed, but I was not able to capture essentially everything that I was saying. So let me just break it down for you here. The real reason why Maikhou couldn't just become a shaman and fix this was because to become a shaman isn't something you just do alone. Yes, you're the one who's chosen, but it also requires a full support team on the human plane of existence. Traditionally, that team would have been her family. And her partner couldn't fill that role since he didn't share or understand the cultural or spiritual lineage that this required. So the real question wasn't just, does she go home or not? It was actually, was she willing to risk going back to the people who hurt her for a chance to break the curse that was affecting her now and affecting her own children? Or protect herself and simply let it continue? That was the actual weight of what she was carrying in this decision. Okay, now back to the story. Now, I want to tell you about the home that Maikhou grew up in. Maikhou is not an eldest daughter. In fact, she's actually a middle child. Unfortunately, though, home was not a place where safety existed. And so all of her older siblings all eventually found their way out of the home, ran away themselves when they finally were able to. And whether she liked it or not, that made her the oldest child in the home, whether she was ready. And this night that she recalled for me was the night that really started it all. She recalled the night that her father came home in a drunken state, and her brother, her 9-year-old brother, happened to be sitting in the living room and became a victim of opportunity. So he came home and he started to physically abuse her younger brother. And she could hear her brother crying, screaming, becoming frantic. Her herself, she wanted to stop this, but she was afraid. So she asked her younger sister to go with her. But her younger sister was also afraid. And so she said, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm too scared of dad. And so, with all the courage that Maikhou could muster up, she managed to come into the living room and push her father to tell him to stop. Now, that put her in a place where she was now in a physical altercation with her father. And as they fought, he strangled her. And as he strangled her, her feet could barely touch the ground. Her toes were like barely touching the ground, and she was scratching his forearm and she was really trying to get away. And it wasn't until she was able to finally kick him that he let go of her, and her adrenaline, as high as it was, she ran out the front door and she ran in the direction of her uncle's home, miles down the road. Now, the thing with Maikhou was that as she ran, she was actually still filled with adrenaline, wondering about all the different things she should do, what is proper, or what she should do to survive. And for a split second, she actually thought, what if I just called the police? What if I just called them? Maybe this nightmare could end today. But another thought followed that soon after. And then she wondered, but what if by calling them, I'm separated from my siblings and we are all separated from one another? So instead of making that call, she just continued to her uncle's house. And when she got there, she thought that she would be seeking a place of refuge. This would have been a place of refuge for her. She ran in, she told everything to her uncle, she shared everything, she poured her heart out. She even told him about how she thought about calling the police. And instead of receiving the support she thought she would, her uncle turned back, looked at her, and yelled at her. He yelled at her and he said, "How dare you? How dare you go against your parents? How dare you even think to call the police? Your father, your mother, Loyalundu, Loyadai, they are heaven and they are earth. How dare you disrespect them?" And she was stunned. She was taken aback. And this was also the moment that a belief started to develop in her. And this belief was that, oh my gosh, I don't know how to respect my parents. I don't know how to love them. I deserve this. I deserve this pain. I deserve this destruction. It is because of me. And with that, her uncle begins to lecture her. And then at the same time, he calls her father. He goes, he's going to know about this, and I'm going to take you back home. So he shares everything, sparing no detail, to her father. He tells her father, she came to my house, she told me all these things, and she told me that she was going to call the cops on you. And as they're driving home, Maikhou's heart has sunken. Her stomach is sunken. She's afraid. She's also numb. She feels paralyzed. And she doesn't know what's waiting for her at home. Her uncle drops her off. And when she gets inside, they lecture her for a bit, right? With her uncle there, she gets lectured. As soon as her uncle leaves, her father hits her again. And then he does one more thing. Her father decides to teach her a lesson. And he decides that the best way to teach her a lesson is to curse her. After her uncle left, her father beat her to teach her a lesson. Her mother watched silently. She was tight-lipped, disappointed, her very disappointing daughter. That evening, her father stepped outside, lighting joss paper and incense on fire, demonstrating his anger. Now, before I continue to the next part, I want to explain what lighting joss paper and incense means in Hmong culture. So, in our community, in our culture, when you're lighting joss paper and incense, you're essentially invoking and calling upon the spirits, whoever you're calling on, whether you're calling on the gods, the deities, the ancestors, you're calling on a higher power to do something for you, whether that is to protect you, because people do it for that too, we do it for that too, or that is to avenge you or get revenge for you or do something for you or help you, right? It really depends. Lighting joss paper or incense is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it is there because you're asking for help, you're seeking it. And lighting joss paper and incense is a form of payment to the ancestors, to the spirits, to the deities, to the gods, to help you, to support you. But in this moment, what it was being used for was to invoke a curse. And what it was used for was to send the ancestors after his own daughter to teach her a lesson. My goose father shouted into the skies, "Kuhutsa te pakonyetsu, kokhe kutun tsailia, vinuchi hununia, nutsi, kleke daironu, gonu jonjong da itzi. Monutsa mon kito luning de jing te goho, Kia ke chondu onu. Tia kia ke hu o nyadasu. Gota iti. Nu yashi tua. Tia tia tua tua tsaite. Or yo lo cha tonu. Donusu. I call upon the ancestors. Discipline my disgraceful daughter, for she does not honor her parents. Teach her a lesson she'll remember forever. Bind her to a fate of loneliness and failure. Allow darkness to fill her and make love a ghost forever beyond her reach. And let every hand that shall lift her instead strike her down. Maikhou watched smoke curl towards the stars. Her stomach sank. He shouted, Guyolundu, Guyodaya, Goyin Yochidiku. I am heaven and I am earth. You will never be free of me. Going no contact doesn't require a curse. So maybe all it requires for you to end a relationship or a connection was the way people you loved began to wear you down through the years. Like every time you may share an achievement, they may talk you down, tell you to get out of your head, and make fun of you for having dreams or aspirations, or making you feel unsupported or unaccepted, or like watching them love everyone else in the family a little easier than they loved you, accepting the choices of your siblings but disagreeing with your personal decisions, such as the person you're going to choose to marry or your lifestyle choices. But just as we mentioned, running away wasn't the first thought on Maikhou's mind. After that night, she actually stayed, and she was only about 14 at that time. And so she did her best to actually endure it, even when she started to see spirits and entities that were starting to haunt her. And as these entities and spirits started to haunt her, she begged for the forgiveness of her parents. She begged her father to please forgive her. She begged her mother to please protect her. But every time her father answered, he would say, See, that's what you get. The ancestors are teaching you a lesson. They're showing you these entities. They are haunting you themselves because you were not a good daughter. You did not listen to us. And when she turned to her mother for protection, her mother simply said, But you didn't listen. You were a bad daughter, and that's why this is happening to you. And I can't believe that you're even mine. So, not only was she being haunted, but all of these things were starting to pile up on Maikhou, being berated, being ridiculed, being gaslit, being emotionally and verbally abused, and eventually got to a point where it broke her down. She could no longer do it. So she ran away. She ran away to survive. And her running away was her only act of self preservation. It wasn't to intentionally abandon family, but even years after the escaping, she carried immense shame and guilt for going no contact. And now, leaving a family, a relationship, or a version of your life is not easy. It's a choice that really lingers in your mind until you feel backed into a corner. And I want to ask you, how many of us have ran away hoping that what was out there would be better than what we were experiencing? If you've ever made the decision to leave to protect yourself, whether it was mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical abuse, and you still felt guilty for saving yourself, I want you to know that leaving to survive has never been about your family. It has always been about you. And sometimes leaving is the only thing you can do to protect yourself. And if you've gotten no contact with someone who was supposed to protect you, I want you to know that it's okay. When she initially left all those years ago as a teenager, her father actually sent videos of himself lighting incense in joss paper again, burning it to the ancestors to track her down, to haunt her because she was a bad daughter for leaving. That whether she that when she chose to leave, she chose to dishonor her family. She chose to dishonor her parents. And she was afraid when she saw this video. She was scared. But something that she thought about in that moment was, let me delete these videos and I never want to hear from my father again. So she blocked his number, she deleted it, she moved multiple states, she moved to multiple cities, she moved where there was no Hmong person to be found, no Hmong community, because she was so afraid of being recognized, being known. And she left and she hoped that distance was what was going to protect her. But it still followed, and the haunting still continued. and now into her mid 40s, a new marriage and children, that curse was following her, and now it was following her children. But I want you to notice something important here. Distance alone did not end the curse. And a curse like this isn't just broken by leaving, it actually needed resolve, which is something entirely different than simply running away or trying to get away. As desperate as she was, she looked on Reddit groups, she looked on Reddit forums, Facebook pages. She was looking for anyone, everyone to help her. That's when she met the shaman who told her, oh, the only way to break this curse is by becoming a shaman yourself. The only way to break your father's curse is to rise up and become a shaman. But she also knew that she could not do that because of her circumstances, because of where she was. And so she continued to search. She did anything and everything she could until she found one of my free classes. She joined, and after she wrote to me, reached out and said, please, I need your help. When we met, the session was hard because the Zoom call kept going in and out. It was going in and out. I couldn't really hear her. And through that disconnection, though, I could hear her coming through saying, oh my gosh, it's the entities, it's the spirits. They want you to stop. They're not allowing us to meet. But one thing that is my job and my goal and what I do in these sessions for my clients is my goal is to keep them still. It's to keep them grounded. It's not to be swallowed also by their fears. So I did my best to cleanse and purify and also protect both of us as we opened the session. And that's when the connection strengthened and I was able to finally see her face. She looked so tired. There were bags under her eyes and she looked like she had been running for a very long time. And the first thing she says to me is, I don't want to be a shaman. And I didn't ask for this. And I need you to know that I need you. Please, please know this. So I told her I could not promise anything. I could only offer her hope that what she came seeking today, that it would be resolved. And so as soon as I entered the spiritual realm looking for her soul, I saw her soul in a vast, vast desert. And her soul was bent over with her head in the sand. And she was trying to put sand over her head. And she was just like, please, please, I don't want to know about any of this anymore. I'm so sorry. I'm a bad daughter. I want this to end. Please, please, please. So I talked to her and I said, hey, like why are you out here? What's going on? And as we're navigating that and we're clearing things for her and we're shifting things for her, we're helping her come back home because her soul had been gone for so long. I see two spirit guides emerge out of nowhere and they grab her soul, one by each arm, and they yank her against her own will. And she starts to kick and she's begging her. She's saying, please stop. Don't let them take me away. And the scene changes and it transforms into almost like a living room area where she is now forced to sit on a shaman bench and then they roll a big black veil over her face. And without her own permission, I can see that her soul is trancing without her permission, without wanting to. She is being forced to do so. I was ready to simply resolve this with her. And so instead of asking all the whys, like, why did this happen? I asked her directly, what do you think is feeding this curse? What do you think it is beneath all of this? Because whether it is a curse, a blessing, or a spell, there is your own internal beliefs that fuels and ignites these other things. It is your own internal beliefs that fuels and make these things come true. As we're processing this, she finally names it. She names the guilt. Maikhou answered, maybe I feel guilty for not being able to protect my brother that night, not being able to protect myself, that everything feels like it just got worse and worse, and it's just all my fault, that I am a bad daughter. That's why all this keeps happening to me. It's why my parents have abused me. It's why I'm haunted. I deserved it. I deserved it all. As her body began to mourn, so did her soul. I feel guilty for leaving, for running away. I could sense her little feet running past me physically. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't. The abuse, my parents, my mom, I couldn't. She shook her head. As she spoke, I felt something else rise from her soul, an ache so strong that I could sense it in my own body. I just wanted a home, she shouted between tears. A place that was safe. She began to sob relentlessly, her breath hitching. Why couldn't I have that? Why couldn't I just have a family that was normal, that loved me? The tears, the grief, the sounds Maikhou made came from a deep pain, a place her body couldn't seem to reach, but her soul knew intimately. And so, in this moment, when she says that she feels that she was a bad daughter, that she deserved it, she deserved everything, it was the moment of realization that she was realizing these things that she was saying out loud, like, wow, I do deserve this. This is what I believe about myself. But the real admission is the one that changes everything. It is actually when I ask her, what does she think she was learning through all of this pain, that things start to change. Maikhou was quiet for so long, I thought she might not answer. I wasn't bad, she said softly. I was young. I was so young. I didn't know anything. Her tears streamed down her face, but this time it felt like a child crying, looking, searching for something familiar, something safe. I didn't know how to love or to be loved. She took a shaky breath. I ran away because I was just looking for a love that would love me back. The moment she spoke those words, energy began to transform in the spiritual realm. The two spirit guides loosened their grip on her soul. The shaman bench disappeared, but we weren't finished. Do you want to go home? Maikhou wiped her tears and nodded. I guided her soul back to the house she had fled. When we arrived, her ancestors were waiting inside, their energy intense and overbearing. The two spirit guides followed, standing behind us as if they had delivered her. We knew you'd return, the voice of the ancestors shouted. Come back to us, to your father. This is where you belong. Her soul, now in the form of a little girl, stood at the front door, trembling. She looked back at me, uncertain. So, in this moment, I want to express that we gently came back to the front door of her home. In a sense, in this way, it's almost like we had not crossed into the home yet because I was still waiting for her permission. She said she wanted to return, but when we got there, she seemed uncertain and unsure. And the energy inside the home became a little intense, a little overbearing, almost as if they were waiting for her to return, but almost as if it was too much for her. Do you want to go back? I asked both of them, the human and the soul. Her soul stared into the house, at the faces she had known her whole life, the voices that had been first to name her. A part of her wanted to return. For a moment, she dreamed about what a loving home could have been like. A dad that didn't hit her, a mom that wiped her tears, a big sister that played house with her, a big brother who stood up to her bullies. A Friday summer evening, barbecuing in the backyard. Her dad holding her children, her mom giving advice on motherhood. She dreamed, she yearned, she ate. Mommy's girl, don't cry. She dreamed, she yearned, she ate. Daddy's girl, don't worry. She dreamed, she yearned, she ate. Mom and Dad still loves you. But a feeling rose in her chest. No, she whispered. I don't. Everything she had ever dreamed, everything she had ever wanted them to be, she let it go. There's nothing left for me here. And before I continue, I want to share something that was really special in that moment. When her chest rose, that was the human her, Maikhou, on the physical plane expressing herself, saying, no, I don't. But when she said, there's nothing left for me here, that was her soul. And in that moment, both her human self and her soul were coming in sync. And they were both in sync with the answer and the decision, the choice that they were going to make. And that was a very powerful moment because for so long, although both of them were running away, her mind and her heart was in one place and another time in place, and her soul was in such a different place as well, and both of them simultaneously were carrying different feelings. And although they were both feelings of not being sure about their family or home, what was finally bringing them together in that moment was their cleared and connected thought of, we both don't want to go back. Eyes closed, I acknowledged her choice, asking the Creator to show me the lesson she was learning to remove the curse in its entirety, then spoke it out loud. Home is not where your family is. Home is where you are. I could feel the immediate relief in her physical body. She wailed out loud, the grief she carried for years pouring out all at once, heaving in waves. I watched as the curse began to lift from the learned lesson. First from her skin, the surface wounds, the visible bruises her father's hands had left. Then from her bones, the ache of running, the exhaustion of carrying what was never hers to carry. Then from her spirit, the deepest roots, where her mother's abandonment lived. It rose off her like smoke clearing after a fire, slowly, then all at once. The ancestors, the house, it all disappeared. The spirit guides stepped back. What her father paid the ancestors to do has been completed. They no longer owe him. Our work here is complete. And just as they came, they vanished. Now, I want to mention a few things, which is the curse didn't break because someone else fixed it for her. It broke the moment Maikhou told the truth about what she had really been carrying: the guilt, the shame, the loneliness, the real reason why she left. Sometimes all it takes is really talking about it and saying it out loud. And that's often actually the beginning of something loosening. And the shame that Maiku carried, not just the guilt over what she's done, but a belief about who she was, is what fed the curse more than anything her father actually invoked. Now, don't get me wrong, the curse is real, but what fueled the curse and what kept it going was her own guilt and her own shame. So here's how the loop actually works. Shame convinces her that leaving meant she didn't deserve a real home somewhere else. And so even after she physically left, she never fully let herself live in that new world she built. And that half tethered state, kind of attached, kind of detached, present but not fully arrived, is something that exactly let the curse keep reaching her for years. And that reach was reinforced by the shame that started it. Distance without resolution is not freedom. It's just moving the trap to somewhere new. And sometimes the only way to find a home isn't to fix the one you were given. It's to leave it completely. Not to go build a replacement somewhere else, but to finally find a home in yourself. The one place that was always yours to claim. And now, again, not everyone who's gone no contact has survived something as extreme as a formal curse or physical violence. Whatever your reasons are, they don't need to match my goose in severity to even be valid. Distance you need to survive is the distance you need to protect yourself. But curses, in this sense, aren't only what other people can place on us. Sometimes the heaviest one is the belief we quietly believe about ourselves. And so Maiku could survive the abuse. She could even run from it. And she did. But what she couldn't do alone was resolve the guilt and the shame that she was experiencing. My one-on-one containers are built just for that, a safe and loving place in which you and I can connect deeply on what is keeping you feeling trapped or tethered to a place that no longer resonates. If you feel called to work with me, I'd love to open that door for you. Feel free to book a one-on-one session with me here. Now, I see this guilt constantly in the clients I work with who have gone no contact from their family. The reasons vary, but the guilt sounds the same. I should have tried harder. I abandoned my family. What if they were finally going to change, but I left right before that could happen? And I want to let you know, here's what's actually true. Going no contact is almost never impulsive. It's usually the last option people reach for, not the first. Something that only arrives only after years and years and years of repairing, attempting to set boundaries, or simply trying to cope alone. And the biggest misconception I hear over and over is that going no contact is a point of no return. That once you leave, your life can never go back to normal. That you're choosing a permanent path of darkness. But that's not true, and there's actually real research behind it. Cornell sociologist Carl Pillemer ran the first large-scale national survey ever done on this, published in his book Fault Lines. Of the people he surveyed, 10% were estranged from a parent or a child, 8% from siblings, and 9% from extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles, or grandparents. And it's rarely permanent. Most people who go no contact with a parent do eventually reconcile, at least partially on their own time. Pillemer found that almost everyone who did reconcile shared one thing in common. They let go of needing the other person to fully apologize or acknowledge what happened first. And this helps us understand that going no contact doesn't always shut the door forever. It's a pause and it's a choice that you're allowed to make. And we are also allowed to reopen it whenever it is right for you. And so, one thing I'd love for you to sit with this week is, are you still half tethered to a place, a person, or a version of yourself you already left? What would it actually take to arrive where you are now? And if home is not where your family is, but where you are, have you actually let yourself arrive there yet? Now, if any part of this episode felt close to home, that's not coincidence, that's an invitation. To those I'm destined to meet next, I'll see you soon. On the next episode, we explore doubt and what that looks like, not when you fail, but actually when you succeed. Until then, I'll see you soon. Take care.